Hey Dabbles, I hope this video finds you and your family safe and healthy. I wanted to share one of the crafts that I recently did that was super simple and absolutely so cute. So right before the quarantine, I actually went to tour a couple model homes. I absolutely love looking at houses, and I love going through model homes in new neighborhoods because they always have the latest and coolest trends in home decor. So I've been seeing one of the trends on the rise being things that are a little bit like boho chic, and I really love that style. They have this huge wall hanging fabric, which is exactly what I have been looking for online, and they can get really pricey, especially the bigger that they are. And I was like, it looks pretty simple, so I'm going to try to create my own. So I went in my own yard and found a branch that had a really nice shape, and basically I let it dry for a while because I'd read online that even though when you cut it down, it still could be alive and can have critters. So I let it dry for a few days, and then what I ended up doing was I whittled the wood. I basically took a knife and cut the outside of the branch so that it exposed the interior natural of the wood. And then what I did was take polyurethane and just painted it on there, let it dry, did a second coat. It really helped put a sheen and kind of bring out the colors of the wood. And once it was dry, it was ready for me to create this piece. So you can use any sort of yarn. You can use the color scheme that you are looking for in the room. I wanted to have something that was a little bit more natural. The room that I was wanting it for has a lot of browns and tan colors and light blues, and so I kind of wanted it to be as natural looking as possible. You can do this with any yarn, but it's actually best to use a natural fiber or anything that kind of has like a natural look to it will usually look the best. What I ended up using is this yarn. I ended up going with this because it had the natural colors that I wanted, as well as pieces of the darker colors that is in the bedroom. I've also seen it done with all sorts of colors. You can literally go Google it and find different ways you can do it. If you have a color scheme, I would suggest using those 3 colors and kind of mixing it all in there. Now you can buy ones that are actually in a loop, and it's probably would be a lot faster because you could just cut it in half and have the lengths that you want. This was not in a loop, so I had to cut the individual pieces. So I started out by first testing out how long I wanted the pieces to be on the wall that I wanted to put it on. And then from there, you have to actually double it because you're going to be folding it over. And I cut the pieces. And then I had to go through and cut this entire thing into those size lengths so that I could have all the pieces. After you have all the pieces cut, you can begin to start putting it on your piece of wood. What you're going to do is start by folding the piece of yarn in half and going over your wood and pulling through the ends through the loop. Make sure as you're doing this that you do all of them in the same way, because you will have the option of which way you want facing forward, but the knots will show on one side and the knots don't show on the other side. So you want to make sure that you are pulling the loops the same exact way all the way throughout. As you're putting the loops, I highly recommend that you use multiple different layers. So for example, I did pieces that had 3 pieces of yarn, and then I had ones that had 1 piece of yarn, and then I had ones that were 2 pieces of yarn for each individual loop. It kind of just gives it a little bit more texture and kind of adds a little bit of pattern throughout so that it's not so dull. Once you have all your loops, I just basically pulled them all down, tighten them, and you make sure when you create this that you have a piece that you keep for the length of holding it. So when we are done putting all the pieces together, we're actually going to put a piece of yarn that is going to be the piece that you will be using to hang the decor. I actually like the way it looked without doing anything else, but there's a variety of things that you can do. I ended up deciding to do a little bit more just to add a little bit more texture because it was all one color. And so basically what I did was I started to put a couple braids and knots throughout it. The braids, I would take a couple pieces from, you know, the different knots and braid them together. And for the knots, I just put one up top and one on the bottom and just kind of add a little bit of texture. Now there's a lot of things that you can do. I did these knots very close together so you can't really see the wood. You don't have to do that. If you really like the way that the wood looks, you can actually separate each of these knots a little bit more to show a little bit of that wood through. I wanted mine to be more fabric heavy, so I didn't do that, but that is one option. There's other things you can do as well. You could add beads, you can use multiple different colors, you can add, you know, braids up top, you know, to add some layers, either starting from the top or layering it on top of what you've already done. This is what the end result looked like. I really love the way it looked. You know, I think I'll probably do more in the future, maybe with different styles, maybe different colors, so I will definitely share that with you as I do. But since you're at home and, you know, I know some craft stores are still open, or you may have yarn, you know, at the house, just wanted to show you one really easy craft that you can do. So this whole thing actually ended up costing me less than $10. The branch was obviously free from my yard, and I ended up buying on sale at Michael's this yarn that I think was like 2 for $12 if I remember correctly, and I only ended up having to use one, and you could see how thick it was. And I think it's because the yarn was so thick that it actually, you know, was great for this bigger project. You can do smaller ones, you can do bigger ones, you can do multiple ones, you can add colors and layers and beads. It's absolutely awesome. So it's super easy. I probably did the entire project. Once I actually started looping the pieces of yarn, that took less than an hour. The longest part is the branch, which you could also buy, you know, something at the store, create it with a different, with a pole or wood that you could buy at the store. I like the natural look so much better. I think it adds a little bit of character and it's free. So that's the route that I went. So anyways, Dabbles, that is just one project that I wanted to share with you. Super easy, super cute, and a lot cheaper than what you can buy online, and it's kind of one of the new trends. So hopefully it gives you something fun to do while we are at home. Stay safe, stay healthy, and if you're looking for other crafts, you know, or easy recipes, ideas of things that you can do during this time, go to youtube.com/Dabblerella and click on videos to see the full list.